We're about a mile off of Interstate 10 between Joshua Tree National Park and Phoenix, Arizona, and on my way out to, well, we'll call it the grand finale, some gals at the gas station were telling me about these old stone cabins just off the side of the highway. Got the keep out sign. Okay, what do we got here? Enjoy but do not destroy your American heritage. Doesn't really talk about its history. Just basically says don't be a dumbass and vandalize it, which we won't. This style of building always fascinates me because it must have taken a really long time for someone to put this together. Look at all the individual stones. Very colorful though, some of them. I bet this was probably the interpretive sign right here before some idiot tourists broke it.
I wandered around the perimeter for a moment or two, paying close attention to the fine detail and the individual placement of the stones that makes up these cabins. My first thought was, maybe they were part of an old roadside zoo, because they reminded me of the stone buildings located in Two Guns, Arizona, but boy, was I far off. I should have known that this was not a zoo, and I say that because, if it was, they probably wouldn't have put so much detail into the cabins, such as the quartzite used on the corners and the frame of the doorway. The cabins were built sometime in the late 1800s by Joseph Fremont Cone, a very skilled individual known by many to be a nature lover. He came to Quartzsite, Arizona in the 1940s and ended up carving a cave in the hillside while he built the two stone cabins. The smaller building was a cabin in which he lived, and the larger building was his workshop. According to hifromusnewsletter.blogspot.com, in this workshop he turned ironwood on a lathe to make lamps and bowls. Joseph Cone was born in 1892 and later passed away in 1971. As you can see by the condition of his workshop here, it's not doing so well. It's tough to say if it was damaged by vandals or if it was the result of strong winds in the desert. But either way, nothing lasts forever, and that's exactly why they have a fence up.
Interstate 10 between Phoenix and Joshua Tree National Park, if you're driving it, it may look like a boring desert highway with nothing but gas stations, fast food, and a bunch of desert, which it is, but I promise you, if you take your time, stop, look every once in a while, and maybe do a little bit of research, you're going to find tons of hidden gems like these all throughout the desert. That being said, let's make our way to our next desert find. I was just getting ready to hop back on the interstate to head to Blythe, California, but then I pulled up Google Maps and I saw that there is another little hidden gem about a mile down the road here. So we're gonna go check it out, see what it's all about, and see what's left. "107 degrees. It is officially hotter than a spoon in a Motley Crue dressing room." Ooh, you know it's gonna be good when you gotta get off the pavement. Supposedly, it's just up the road about another half a mile. What an absolute buzzkill. The way Google made it seemed like anyone could just come out here and kind of walk through, like a self-guided tour. Oh well, we'll see if we can at least drive around, check out the other side. Looks like somebody's out here.
Something about this location didn't seem quite right. On Google, the place I was looking for had lots of reviews, and what I was seeing here did not look like the pictures. I come to find out what I was looking for was just a little bit further down the road. Welcome to the Gold Eye Mine, and that's Gold Eye, not Golden Eye, like the 007 movie. Quartzsite has been a hotspot for gold miners since the mid-1800s, and one of the most notable figures in the Gold Eye Mine's history is Larry Erdman, the original miner who worked here for 63 years. Sometime in the 1940s, Mr. Erdman built a stone cottage at the mine site. He was born in 1909 and passed away in 1996. And although this stone cottage no longer has a roof, it is filled with old equipment and dozens of vintage items. At the entrance of the cottage is where you will find a memorial for Mr. Erdman, and inside the cottage is where all the fun stuff is.
We're going to try to keep it moving here without skipping the good stuff. My camera's already overheated once, along with my gimbal. I'm doing fine, but electronics in this heat, they do not mix. Looks like we got some more assortment of random parts over here. Some old gas cans. Look at this. Got a little modern grill here. Treadmill. And a little sink. I was not expecting to see this over here.
If you ever find yourself near Quartzsite, Arizona, I would highly recommend stopping in here, but maybe not midday toward the end of August unless you feel like baking in the sun. If you are out here in the summer months, plan your visit for the early morning or late evening, and watch out for rattlesnakes. Those things will pop out of nowhere like a timeshare agent on the Las Vegas Strip. The mines here are also covered, so you and your kid don't have to worry about falling into one and dying on impact. Although if you are walking anywhere out in the desert, you should always be vigilant about where you're walking, especially around an active mine. That's right, the Goldeye mine is still an active mine, and just around the corner from here is something that I did not expect to find, but I'm glad I did.
Here we go. This is what I was looking for. Looks like we got the place to ourselves, although it doesn't really surprise me because no one in their right mind is going to come out here when it's 107 degrees out. Except for me. An old bottle, jar of nails, instant High Point decaffeinated coffee. Well, what's the point? One way to tell if an abandoned place hasn't seen a whole lot of traffic is if the window is still intact. Hopefully it will remain that way for many years to come. Judging by the table and chairs that I can see from all the way over here, I got a feeling this place would have been my kind of place. We got a table and chairs. We got poker going on in here. Oh no, 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 no. Not on my watch. There we go. It's a little beat up and rough, but we're not gonna let it sit on the floor. No way. If I had a beer, which I don't, but if I did, this is exactly where I would come to drink it.
When you walk through old places like this, it sort of gives you a newfound appreciation for your current lifestyle. Back in these days, you had to be tough as nails to live out here and fend for yourself. Besides the obvious threat of the blistering hot sun, there's rattlesnakes, mountain lions, and I'm sure from time to time people would become very territorial of their mines. Can you imagine working all day out in the hot sun or in the dusty, musty mines, and then come home to a cabin which is no cooler than the air outside? The only benefit is it's out of the direct sun. And then, of course, you have no AC and no refrigerator. Like I said, you had to be tough as nails to live this kind of lifestyle, and thank God for AC.
Oh hey, a pair of shades. I know just where to put these in case the old miners come back and they're looking for shade for their eyes, they'll know right where to get it.
Before I left and headed out to the next location, I wanted to send my drone over to the mines and check them out. A couple of them were covered up with boards, roofing sheets, and rocks, but a couple of them were exposed, and I was able to take a little sneak peek inside. Pay very close attention to the last one, because if you do, you may see something move. It appeared to be a little mouse. I'm sure the buzzing of the drone spooked him a little bit, and he went running. The Blythe Intaglios. These are found just north of Blythe, California. And when I first heard about them, I had so many questions, such as, how big are they? Who made them? How were they found? How exactly were they made? And most importantly, in my humble opinion, how old are they? Over the last couple years, I've been using my drone to explore hard-to-reach places in Arizona, searching for signs of ancient civilizations, and stumbling upon many pictograph and petroglyph sites. And when I heard about these, I just had to see them for myself. Intaglios are a specific type of geoglyph. A geoglyph is a large design on the Earth's surface made by people removing or placing soil, sand, stones, etc., etc. These ones were made by engraving or incising the surface so the image is depressed in the relief below the original surface. After finding out about these, it instantly reminded me of the Nazca lines in Peru, as this was a subject that really captivated my interest back in high school and in college. The sheer precision to be able to make these at this scale, along with the proportions and the symmetry, is mind-blowing. And these aren't only found in California and Peru, they've been found all over the world in countries such as Russia, India, Chile, Kazakhstan, Brazil, England, and Australia. It really makes me wonder if there wasn't some sort of connection between these locations that we don't yet know about. Is it possible that the ancient people made these by chance without communication to other parts of the world? Well, yeah, it's possible, but then again, the conspiracy theory part of my brain tells me there might have been a common denominator between these cultures that remains unknown. Some of the images depicted here include human figures, animal figures, and a serpent. The figures range from 95 feet to 171 feet in length. This is the largest of the intaglios here. The human figure measures 170 feet from head to feet. The arms span a distance of 147 feet, and the torso measures a maximum width of 16 feet. According to the interpretive sign located at the turnoff, the intaglios were spotted along the Colorado River in 1932. When pilot George Palmer was flying over the desert. And this is part of why I love having a drone. It allows you to see the Earth from a different perspective you don't normally get to see, and with that includes the possibility of seeing things from the sky that aren't always easily seen from the ground. I have a very special video on that coming up in the future, and by the way, all the drones, cameras, and accessories that I use to make these videos are linked down in the description, in case you're curious. Now, we've talked about how big they are, who discovered them, and how they were made. But most importantly, who is the artist or artists responsible for these phenomenal pieces of artwork? Why did they feel the need to create them, and how old are they? To be completely honest, there is no definitive answer to any of those questions. No one can unequivocally say who, why, or how old they are. A few websites, along with the interpretive sign, the turnoff to the Intaglios, suggest that they may range from 1540 CE to 900 BCE. To simplify that, between 450 to 2000 years old. According to GoLakeHavasu.com, while most scientists believe the Intaglios were probably created by Mojave and Quechan Indians, no one knows for sure. Was it inhabitants of the Earth or something more supernatural? Spirits? Aliens? You decide. As far as why, some of the theories include ceremonial and ritualistic purposes and sacred dances. I'm gonna throw in my 2 cents and say, maybe the answer is a lot more simple than that, and that this was just their way of leaving their mark behind, the same way people today carve their initials in trees, on rocks, or spray paint them on abandoned buildings. Your guess is as good as mine. Now, just when I thought that I had seen them all, I pulled up Google Maps and I saw that there was another significant intaglio not that far away. I was hoping to drive to a nearby ghost town and fit that into the video, but I decided to save that for another day. This next intaglio I wanted to capture on my drone before the sun dipped behind the mountains and the image became way too difficult to see. After putting more air in my front left tire, responding to a text message that I purposely ignored earlier, and a short drive later, this is what I saw. This is Kokopelli, a character that has been featured in many Native American stories dating as far back as 3,000 years. Kokopelli is often depicted with a hunchback playing the flute with a decorative crest on his head. Kokopelli is also a symbol of fertility, joy, feast, and long life. He also represents the spirit of music, is a storyteller, healer, teacher, rainmaker, seducer, and magician. From the top of his feathers or antennas on his head to his feet, he measures 266 feet. Sadly, this one isn't as well protected by a fence like the other ones are, and that makes no sense. Unfortunately, douchebags, excuse my language, they feel the need to come out here and deface these precious, delicate, original pieces of work created by ancient artists. I'm really glad I was able to capture these on my drone though. There's no telling what these will look like in 10, 20, or even 50 years down the line. Now, they are not perfect, but at least they can be somewhat well preserved online and be viewed by people from all over the planet for many years to come. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, please saute that like button, randomly share this video with someone you dislike, and click the playlist in the upper left-hand corner to continue watching more of my desert exploration videos.